schools, they buy local as well, in Mass, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Maine. And they have a relationship with Farm Logics, which is a third party that sets them up at the farm to get local produce year round. So they have like a harvest of the month, and they get about 2 different crops each week for the kids for lunch. So I think that's pretty great. And they also have 7 middle schools that have gardens where they harvest and they cook and reuse the food. And I think that is awesome to teach the kids how to plant, harvest, and prepare foods. And it makes kids more apt to try new foods and to be healthy if they're involved in the cooking process and the harvesting. And they also use, they got rid of styrofoam in Lowell, so they use recycled paper trays.
Do you remember those trays they used to use?
And I did my community rotation at Lowell Boys and Girls Club, and they had a garden, probably the size of like a square. And they harvested eggplant and herbs and spinach and kale, and the kids planted and harvested, and we did cooking classes, and the education of the kids, we did a pre and post sesh, and the nutrition education increased from the beginning to the end because they were involved in the harvesting, they were involved in the cooking, they realized what they were eating and what was going into their bodies. And the main takeaway point was if the kids are involved from beginning to the end, they're going to be learning more about nutrition.
I think that's it. Great. Yeah, thank you. Oh, the dog likes it. I think we're done. Now, I went a little bit longer, so totally understand if you have to get up and leave. It's getting kind of late, but if you want to ask questions or come up and ask me questions, I'm happy to do that.
Can you comment on as a grain?
So there's a lot of different grains. I think it's great, just like with anything, to experiment with variety. And each grain, they're going to have a lot of the same nutrition, but they're also going to have a kind of its own unique profile of vitamins and minerals. So, I mean, I think it's great. The more you can kind of work into your diet and add different flavors and textures and get a little different nutrient profile. Yeah. Well, fat doesn't cause weight gain, calories does. So our fat intake has gone down, but our total caloric intake has gone up. From a variety of reasons. You know, we have more food, more access to food. Most of the food we have access to isn't very healthy. The least healthy food happens to be the least expensive. We're not nearly as active as we used to be. I always joke with my students, like, when I was a kid, I had to get up to answer the telephone and turn on the television. So it's actually a huge combination of things, but certainly not just fat. So if you know what she's referring to, under the Obama administration, the school lunch guidelines changed and they got healthier. I would still argue that they could be even doing better, but they got healthier. And now the new administration is really threatening to take all of that away and kind of go back to the old way where the guidelines were pretty atrocious. And we were, you know, counting ketchup as a vegetable, and there was hamburgers and french fries almost every day, and you could serve ice cream instead of milk if you wanted. How do you get involved with that? There's a lot of ways. You can certainly, you know, write the letters, contact your local people that represent you in government. You know, I actually have friends who work sort of on the school lunch program. Their offices are right in downtown Boston. They're really worried. They're even worried about their jobs being cut. So you're right to be concerned. You just have to, you know, let it be known that you know, this is not a change that is a good one. Yeah, write your submission. Yeah, it's incredibly complex. And that's also why the dietary guidelines are, you know, given within ranges. You can follow this pattern. And you're absolutely right. Like, what's going to work for one person isn't going to be the right thing for another person. So, you know, there's some common sense there. You know, you didn't have to hear me tell you that eating lots of steak was bad and lots of sugar was bad. But, you know, that it really is what our profession is trained to do. So I think if you want a good answer, a specific plan that's more for you and what you're willing to do and what would best suit you, you'd want to talk to somebody. Yeah, the obesity epidemic is, man, it's a I keep wanting to say big problem. That's not the right thing to say. It's a problem. It has to be an environmental sort of shift to how we live our lives, right? I mean, the idea that like one by one, we're going to give people diets which have been shown that they don't work at all, to reduce calories and lose weight, that's not going to work. We have to find ways to have people be more active, move more, have better sidewalks, have better biking lanes, have work environments where you're supposed to get up and do things during the day, not just sit at your desks. Have places to eat where serving sizes are appropriate and half of it's fruits and vegetables, and that becomes more of the norm. I mean, we have to change the way we live our lives on a very broad scale, and that's an incredibly difficult thing to do. But we're recognizing that and kind of making strides toward it. But it's not a problem that's going away anytime soon.
Okay, well, that wraps up our first.
Yeah, I think it was a success.
That was excellent. Thank you very much.
That's great.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks.